should not exercise judgment in political affairs.
If we allow women to vote, it will mean the loss of social structure.
Vote for women! Vote for women! I'm sorry.
You work at the laundry?
Part-time from when I was 7, full-time from when I was 12.
We meet Mondays and Thursdays if you're interested.
You a suffragette, Mrs. Early?
I consider myself more of a soldier. As Mrs. Pankhurst says, it's deeds, not words, that will get us the vote.
We've identified weaknesses in their ranks. We're hoping one of them will break.
They're saying she's to speak.
This is a deliberate escalation. This has to stop.
For 50 years, we have laboured peacefully to secure the vote for women. We've been ridiculed, battered, and ignored.
Punish those responsible, whatever way you can.
Mama!
All my life, I've done what men told me. Well, I can't have that anymore.
Took my love, took it down.
I incite the women in Britain to rebellion.
Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life?
We break windows. We burn things, because war's the only language men listen to.
Well, I've been afraid of changing.
There's nothing left but to stop you.
We're in every home, we're half the human race, you can't stop us all.
But time makes you bolder, even
You might lose your life before this is over.
I'm getting older too.
We will win.
I take my love, take it down.
Never surrender. Never give up the fight.
In the snow-covered hills.
Well, this building is the future Filipino-American National Historical Society Museum, Fawn's Museum. We record the histories of Filipino-Americans here in Stockton and the area. There's 33 chapters across the United States that are recording history in their areas. So we're concentrating on Stockton and our area because Stockton was the largest Filipino community outside of Manila during the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, until the Crosstown Freeway came into Stockton. So there was a large Filipino-American community here. And the reason why it was so large is because of the agriculture in our area, the Delta, all the farm area. So what we're depicting here in this small exhibit for this special Art Splash event is what a typical bunkhouse and campo, the camp that they stayed at, what they had there. They would have a cot bed. They would bring their own bedroll with them going from camp to camp. They set up a cot bed. The furniture they would make out of crates or boxes or whatever they found at the camp, because they didn't bring that with them, because that's too much for them to carry. So they've got the furniture that they made, chairs if they needed it. The cookhouse, or there'd be one section where there'd be a cook, a camp cook. They'd usually have a big wok where they'd be making...
And this is the wok here.
Yeah, and they'd be making the food there, and then usually a huge thing of rice and then some vegetables. And usually the vegetables...
What is this here?
This here is a coconut scraper, and where they would make, get the coconut, and they would scrape the inside, and they would use that for cooking and milk and desserts.
And the asparagus.
Asparagus was the biggest crop here in the San Joaquin Valley, so that's why they have the Asparagus Festival here in Stockton, because that's one of the big groups of crops, and the Filipinos were largely involved in that during the Depression and
And the Vicks rub.
You know, these are all the different things that they would carry with them. They, you know,
and this is what the suitcases look like.
These would have been the trunks that they came over in the from the Philippines. They would have a steamer trunk of some kind, and all their belongings would be in one of these trunks. So we've set up some small little thing here now to show for our part, and then we have our during World War II. The Philippines was a Commonwealth of the United States, so they were nationals. So the same day that Pearl Harbor was bombed, so was the Philippines. So the Filipinos here in the United States wanted to join the U.S. Army, but they're only nationals, they're not citizens. So they couldn't join the Army unless they became a citizen. So the president made a special order that if they wanted to join, they could. So they created the first Filipino infantry, and there were so many that they create the second Filipino infantry. So this was their motto, the Fighting Filipinos. They were fighting for get their homeland back since the Japanese had taken over the Philippines, and a lot of there was a lot of people that came from Stockton, and so we're cataloging their history. And then we have, there were two artists here in Stockton, Filipino artists. One was Gray Custodio, and if you notice the murals around Stockton, we've got some pictures here of his murals. He painted these murals before he died. He was the Stockton's resident muralist. There are two huge murals in City Hall. This is one of the ones in City Hall. They're on the different buildings as you drive around Stockton. Some of them have been painted over, or the buildings have been torn down, but there are still some left. So we've got his artwork, and the other artist is Tony DeZuniga, and he just passed away recently, but he was a huge comic book artist, and he worked on things like Conan the Barbarian, and he created Jonah Hex, and he worked on Spider-Man, Batman, all these different things. He worked for DC first, and later he worked also for Marvel. But his wife owns the Red Orchid restaurant down on
Weber?
Is it Weber? No, this is Weber, right? So it would be Red Orchid on Market Street. Sorry. So anyway, and there's a Tony DeZuniga gallery there in the restaurant if you wanted to ever see his artwork. So for the Art Splash, we wanted to have these two artists represented since they're Filipinos. Plus, we're gonna honor them at our annual Community Recognition Awards on October 17th at the Red Orchid Restaurant. But we also wanted to show the bunkhouse and combo display. So.
Well,
these
thank
are volunteers.
you.
We're all volunteers.
Thank you. We're at the local museum here in Stockton.
Future museum.
Future.
Protested. They were very held against. They had racism so vibrant, and they were people that only allowed you to live in certain parts of town. You could not live north of Main Street. They lived some other places in the south of Stockton, and even there, they would not allow you to live there. The neighbors didn't want you.
This was the Filipino population?
Yes. And then the black community, you couldn't even see the black community. They all stayed south in their own little area.
Right here, Filipinos allowed.
And this was in California?
Yes. Stockton.
They went to the hotels.
Wow. And it says positively no. Wow.
It also had no Filipinos or dogs allowed.
Come a long ways.
Yep.
Thank you.
So a lot of these people that are coming in now, they're new immigrants, have it easy because now they can come in here, they can buy a house and buy a car.
Lafayette Street. It's right where Little Manila is right now, on Lafayette and El Dorado and Hunter. And I grew up there. My dad taught me how to ride my bike there, roller skate, went to Lafayette School. I walked from there all the way to Weber Street and Toys R Us. But growing up there was, my parents didn't bring us to know about prejudice and stuff like that. Like I said, I had this a good friend of my dad's, I guess, when they had the dance hall there in AFL Hall, that he was a black man that always would play with us, you know, and got us to do things with him, and my parents trusted him. And then when it came to, we have Japanese kids, and my parents came from the Philippines, and they fought with the Japanese, or they, you know, had the war, but they didn't discriminate against them either. So it's just, and I had 10 godparents that were all Filipino godfathers. The godmothers were 2 Filipinos, 2 mestizos, half and half Mexican and Filipino, and then the rest were white. And those were the dance hall girls that the Filipinos came together after their hard time of working, and that was their only entertainment, going to these gatherings on the weekends and stuff. So, but I didn't feel the prejudice until going even to Delta, because I went to Edison, and that was multicultural also. With and also at Delta's when I found out how prejudice was, you know, people and stuff. It was, pardon me? Well, oh yeah, I went to Stag. I went to my Stags my sophomore year. One day my junior year, I cried on my way home because I wasn't wanted. They said I couldn't walk on their sidewalk, and I lived right on Churchill Street, getting on the bus. So the second day...
This was the 60s?
This was in the 67. Yeah, I graduated 67. I went to Stag, and I cried home, and I told my parents that I don't want to go there, so they brought me to Edison. And I guess there must have been a reason why my friends were all there, because after my parents moved, I was already in junior high, and I already was, our school wasn't being built, so at Hamilton, so I had to go to Stockton Junior High. So half of us were Hamilton, and half of us were, I think, the Webster. They were all there. So we did. Then my parents moved.
Do you have any advice for the younger generations?
Now, you know, of parents, I would say I wouldn't talk about any color. I mean, everybody's a human being.
That's right.
Everybody's not, you know, if that's not brought up, like in my family.